Well, welcome to Woodcraft Revival, where we talk about all things wood. Have you ever walked through the woods and have seen a black tree? I mean, it's like coal black, and you're thinking, what is that? Is that a different species? Is that disease? What's going on here? So come along, we'll get into this. We're going to talk about what it is, what causes it, and whether you should do something about it in your woodlot. Well, the first question, is it a different species, is really easy to answer. No, it's not. In fact, what you see here is a maple tree and a maple tree. Red maple, red maple. Kind of gray, black as coal. So what's going on between these two trees that causes this one to be super black and this one to be regular bark color that you'd expect to see on a maple? So I moved over to the sugar maple so we could get a better look at understanding what it is. And you can see this sugar maple is black further down. As you go up, it starts to get back to its regular bark color. So what this black is actually a fungus. And the cause of the fungus is actually quite interesting. Some of you guys may know, but there's an animal that's actually causing this fungus. So if we take a closer look at this sugar maple, we will see all kinds of little holes. Variety of holes in various places. Down around the black, and when you go up further above the black, well, there's not so many holes. So what's going on here? So I came back over here to this red maple because I think this illustrates it better. If you can see, we've got holes all along here. In fact, they're almost in a perfect horizontal demarcation. And that's where a lot of this fungus is forming. Over here, there's not any holes and no fungus formation. So the cause of the holes is actually a yellow-bellied sapsucker. And no, that's not just a Looney Tunes derogative name, that's a real live creature. So what the sapsucker is doing, he's actually sucking sap, and the seriousness of the sap sucking can sometimes be severe. So what our little feathered wrecking ball is actually doing is, of course, he's trying to find a meal. So he's going to come through here, and it's not just specific to maple, although maple has a high concentration of sugar, of course, but the sapsucker can actually attack any tree. And so as she's drilling holes in here, the idea is that sap will start to flow, and then, of course, it can suck the sap, hence the name sapsucker, and it's got a yellow belly, too. But sometimes also, if the sap's not flowing as well, the sapsucker will return shortly after drilling a hole to see if any insects have come in. So the small amount of sap that may weep may draw ants in, may draw other bugs to land, and of course take advantage of that nectar as well. And the sapsucker comes back and has a more protein-filled feast. So depending on where you live in North America, the sapsucker can be a concern on your woodlot during different times of the year. Where we are in the mid-Atlantic region of the United States, then it's migratory times that the sapsucker becomes an issue. So that would be spring and fall. So right now, the little sapsucker, he's headed south, and he's going to stop and drill a bunch of holes in my trees. Come next spring, he's going to work his way to Canada, and he's going to stop and drill a bunch of holes in my trees. So the black color is actually the result of a fungus that forms from all the weeping sap. That's why it's not species related. Well, I thought I heard one. That's pileated woodpecker. All right, never mind. It's not species related. It's not species specific. But anything that flows sap, and if those fungal spores are in the area, then that fungus will start to form and you get this black color. That's why you can look through my woods and you'll see one here, one here. There's one up on the hill behind me. It's somewhat arbitrary because it all depends on how much weeping happens. And if that fungus spore is present, then that fungus can actually blossom and do all the things that it's doing. So is the sapsucker and the fungus it's helping produce, is it detrimental to the tree? Actually, according to the Audubon Society, no. The sapsucker is not going to kill the tree. And from what I understand about the fungus, it's not going to kill it either. It may be unsightly, although I think a black tree in the woods is kind of cool. But according to the Audubon Society, the sapsucker is not killing the tree. He's not going to go in a perfect circle all the way around and destroy the flow of nutrients, thus killing the tree. But if you're really concerned, you think, well, Troy, I want to be able to stop this. I want to prevent the buildup of the mold, and I want to stop the little sapsucker from drilling holes in my trees. What can I do? Well, you could choose to declare war on the sapsucker, and you can hide out in your woodlot, shotgun in hand, and be ready to blast him anytime he lands. But A, that would be very daunting. It would take a lot of time. And it's also illegal in most areas to kill any type of woodpecker. Sapsucker is technically a woodpecker. So that's not an option. Plan B, according to the Audubon Society, they suggest wrapping your tree in burlap, loose burlap, during the season that the sapsucker is going to be in your area. So for us, that's spring and fall, wrap the entire trunk in burlap, and that will keep the sapsucker from being able to drill those holes. Now, 100 acres of woodlots for me, not quite practical. If you've got a really nice ornamental tree in your front yard and the little sucker's starting to do his job, then maybe that makes more sense for you. As for the fungus, really the only option you have, from what I've researched, is you can wash the tree, pressure spray it basically, and try to pressure spray the fungus off. Now, depending on the species, that could be really hard on the bark, and you can actually be doing more damage to the tree than you would in removing the unsightly color. So remember, the fungus isn't killing the tree, so other than the unsightliness of the black, there's really not an issue there. So here's another example of the sapsucker choosing a specific tree and not messing with one right beside it that's the same species. So this is actually a double trunk sugar maple. These two trees, and I've got it pointed this way so you can see the blackness, but you can see here, this is two trunks. Smaller trunk here, larger trunk back here. But this one is poked full of holes and is of course developing that fungus. This one has nary a hole in it. But let me show you something I think that's interesting that to me is maybe a good theory of why this one's been attacked and this one hasn't. And I actually find that somewhat beneficial here in the woods. When we pan up this double trunk, look at what we have here. Of course, let's see if I can get that aperture to. That is a massive burl. And that burl, I'm going to fall over the mountain, that burl is almost completely encircled that sugar maple. So this guy with that burl clearly isn't doing too well. As soon as that burl completely encircles the tree and destroys the flow of the cambium, then the top of that tree is going to die. So I don't think it's a coincidence that this tree is sickly and on its last leg, and the sapsucker decides to declare war on it versus its healthy other leg here. So why I think that's a benefit for me and my woodlot is, quite frankly, when I'm going through the woods and looking for trees to harvest, enough deadfall will keep me in sawing wood forever, but then also looking for disease stuff to say, well, let's find stuff that's on its last leg, and maybe we'll take that down to the mill or we'll do something with it. With this here being a sugar maple, now it's not a huge diameter, but it would be worth cutting this leg off and milling it. Now, granted, it's going to make a weak spot in the bottom of that, so I could be causing damage to its friend, but this to me is an indicator. As I go around the woods and see, okay, there's a black tree, I think that tree is stressed, and it's not stressed because of what the sapsucker's done to it. It's stressed, and the sapsucker knows it too, so he's going to go take advantage of it. So to me, it's kind of like the sapsucker saying, hey, man, this tree's not doing too good. Check this out. So I don't have hatefulness towards the sapsucker. I let him do his thing. So I actually find woodpeckers to be absolutely fascinating creature. If you look at the anatomy of a woodpecker and its tongue and how its tongue wraps around its head and makes it a shock absorber to handle all those blows, I think it's fascinating. The sapsucker, being a woodpecker, he has similar anatomy. And to spend time in the woods and to see and to hear the woodpeckers, see them active, there's just something about it I just really enjoy, especially when you see like the big pileated woodpeckers, and they fly. It sounds like they're always laughing at you as they fly by. The downy woodpeckers, the red-headed woodpeckers, all kinds of varieties that we have here just in our valley. It makes it really fun to be in the woods and check them out. Anybody in there? Hello? So I think it's fun to just cruise the woods and look for different signs of different things going on. In the Appalachian hardwood forest, there's just a ton of activity going on in this ecosystem. Between the flora and the fauna and just changes of seasons, just fantastic. And as I always say when I close out the videos on this channel, take this opportunity to get outside before the snow starts blowing, before it gets too cold and too wet and too rainy, and just enjoy God's beautiful creation and just look around and just see what's going on. See if you can spot some evidence of the yellow-bellied sapsucker setting up the buffet to not only drink, but to draw in some of those insects. Actually hear a pileated woodpecker as we're talking right now. Well, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.